Okay, so we've moved on into they called you at the right time. Hopefully called us too, because we before the transaction
we worked together.
Yeah, that's right. So they had the economic decision. They knew that they had a reporting problem to take care of, a report, and then they called you. They got that handled, and now we are in the let's just call it the maintenance phase of this, where now we have to make sure that we have our positions coming in, we're reporting on them properly. All right, we already talked about there's a systems part of this, which is you have to be able to record it in databases, incorporate prices, create mark-to-markets. So when you're looking at systems, and we're usually talking about commodity trading risk management systems, CTRM,
Yep.
What capabilities are you looking for to make sure it's going to flow properly into accounting?
When you look at any sort of CTRM, I mean, the concern is, depending on what's out in the marketplace right now, a lot of these instruments, that system is going to address a lot of the issues or a lot of the concerns that you may have, but there's always going to be inherent limitations. So, I mean, a lot of these types of instruments, especially nowadays with the ability to structure these instruments, they're structuring them to the point that they're really almost a customized type of product. It's a bespoke product. So, you can take various systems that can address most of those situations, but they can't address all of them, right? So what we normally would focus on is the ability for the system to capture the trade, to make sure that it's managing the position itself, that it can report on the trade as far as the mark-to-market values, that it's able to do that rather fairly, I could say rather efficiently and rather quickly, as of when the actual reporting date occurs. You want to be able to make sure that it's going to provide you with the data that you need to actually generate your entries. Some of them will generate entries, depending on the complexity of it. But a lot of it, again, you start talking about, sometimes you get into instruments that are much more complicated, which they may not be able to handle all of those complexities. So we're looking for, sort of, I guess I could answer the question more, the blocking and the tackling. Is it capturing the trade? Is it reflective of the trade? Is it able to report on the trade? Does it give you good visibility as far as the actual marks? Does it capture are they capable of capturing the hedge documentation as part of a package in that system? All those various pieces that you want to have, that you would sit there and say, okay, you're using hedge accounting treatment. Let me look at the hedge documentation. Oh yeah, I've got it right here electronically. Well, let me look at the quantitative test you did. Oh yeah, here's the quantitative test that we ran on it. Okay. Let me look at the marks that you did at the most recent quarter. Okay, here's the marks. You want to be able to check all those boxes when your auditors come and start asking those questions. So those are usually what we look for. Once you start getting more into disclosures and reporting on the back end, that becomes a little bit more something that's going to be done a little bit more outside the system. Yeah, because it's usually not feeding directly into those. But we have seen instances where it actually just imports data and stuff into the nodes.
I'd say that there's very few that we see, partly because the way that we advise on the front end. So there are some standard types of derivatives that are exceptionally easy to value, like swaps.
Right.
Exceptionally easy. It's subtraction.
Yep.
It's
pretty much.
and then there's standard options like call options and put options in any combination thereof, which are fairly straightforward too, because there's closed form solutions. There's formulas where you can calculate them. Then you start getting into what generally we call exotics. And exotics are, those non-standard. If I had to say what usually sets them apart, it's because somebody has an option to take action and you don't know when they're going to take it. That could be one category of exotics. So if you go into it and you're concerned that you might run into something that's hard to value, I would just say usually there is an alternative that would be much more straightforward and that you would be able to get routine marks a lot easier.
Right.
Occasionally you have to use them.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's pretty rare. You probably
Yeah.
see them more than I do because of the nature of your advisory.
Yeah. Once you start getting into that type of an instrument, I mean, you may get even further down the road where it requires a simulation to be run or something along those lines. And yeah, that's a much more complicated type of analysis. Um, the majority of what you see out in the marketplace usually is pretty straightforward. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Like you mentioned, swaps and various option strategies, and all those models. I mean, there's models out there that address all those various types of instruments. So so it's not as if people have been working with these instruments for the last 20, 25, 30 years. They understand them well now. Where if you go back 20 years, it was sort of on the forefront. These instruments were starting to evolve. But now, I mean, there's so many people that are looking at them, that have worked with them. They understand how they operate, and that's been incorporated into a lot of the systems and the different applications that they have to value them and address the necessary elements.